Back, everybody, to Midday. Craig Swapp joining me now on the set from Craig Swapp and Associates. And it is that time of year. You saw the temperatures for the weekend. The trampoline comes out, the swimming pools start filling up, and maybe we should start thinking about liability when it comes to kids on our property.
I think it's wise, Nisha. Everybody wants to be outside. Everybody wants to jump on whatever they can and do different things. And just a little bit of prevention can save you a lot of heartburn in the long run.
So let me start with this question. If you don't know that a child has come into your yard, they're uninvited, are you still liable for any injuries that they get on your property?
You can be. You can be. And the reason why is that under the law there's a doctrine called the attractive nuisance doctrine. So if you have a swimming pool or a trampoline, or even I've seen old refrigerators, different things that you just leave on your property, those have been considered an attractive nuisance, and depending on the age of the child, it can create a liability for you, the homeowner, if you're not careful.
So does your homeowner's insurance cover, say, an accident on that trampoline?
It can, if it's covered. Most homeowner insurance companies are excluding trampolines from their coverage. So my advice to anyone that has a trampoline is to call their insurance company to make sure that they do have coverage, and if they don't, be very, very careful.
Do you remember as a kid getting a note, like someone had to bring a note over from their mom signed?
Yes.
Does that hold any weight anymore? I don't know if it did back then.
Well, I think what it does is it discourages the injured party or their parents from doing anything. But legally, no. If we've got something in our yard that is dangerous, and someone gets hurt on it, we're going to be held responsible for it.
All right, that leads us to swimming pools. Same rules apply?
Swimming pools, exact same rules apply. I mean, and that's one of those deals where they're a huge attraction for kids of all ages. But I think that the best thing there to do is make sure you have a cover, make sure you do everything you can to make sure that young people can't get into it and really we're worried about young kids. You know, those teenagers that sneak in and whatnot, there's a time where they've got to accept their responsibility. But what I'm really worried about is the toddler and the young kids that come in and they can't swim, fall in accidentally, and
it just takes a second.
It's tragic. Yeah, it's tragic.
Thinking about my yard right now, what about swing sets and those play sets that so many people have? Swing
sets and play sets have to be maintained. We've got one in our yard as well, and every year I have to go out and crank those bolts, stain it, make sure that there's not the big slivers and things that come out of it. But again, it's just, I think if for your viewers, if they could just exercise common sense, go out there and examine their yards, look at everything they have out there, and is there anything out there that could hurt somebody if they're not careful or if they just fall upon it.
Can you avoid liability if you have that attractive nuisance in your yard?
It's really hard. It's really hard unless you take very careful precautions. Like with a pool, if you have a cover, you have a fence, those sort of things, those will diminish your responsibility. But I think it's where I see the most concern is where people do things like on the weekend. They have a stop and waste valve that goes out. They dig a hole and they go off and forget to cover the hole.
There it is.
And then somebody's just taking their kids for a walk at night and step in it and hurt themselves. Those sort of things could be completely avoided with just common sense, put a board over the top of it, whatever you need to do to
if someone does get hurt on your property, what's the first thing you should do? I know so many times it's a neighbor and you want to handle it yourself. Is that smart?
Well, I think that's really dependent on you. That's what I do. If somebody's hurt on my property, I want to help them, take care of them. But realistically, we're only legally responsible if we've done something to cause that injury. We have a lot of times kids getting little squabbles, and remember, like when my son was young, and he hit a little neighbor girl with a toy train in the head. It's like, and blood comes all over it. You feel horrible about that. And I think, as a general rule, do what you can to minimize that, take care of what you can. If you do feel like you are liable on something, call your insurance company. They have lawyers on staff to represent you and protect you in the event that you are liable for that type of claim.
Well, and if you have any other questions about liability, they're so knowledgeable there at Craig Swapp and Associates. That is the website. Please go to ours and we'll link you to all of their information, Good4Utah.com/midday. I think we just touched on that issue, and it becomes one about this time of year for so many of our viewers. Craig, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Good to see you.
You as well.
Back to you guys.
All right, thanks.